Okay, this is the homework helper for Chapter 2, Section 4, Multiplying and Dividing Integers, and this is for the workbook. So we've got here some rules up at the top in red that you saw today during the instruction, which will be helpful for us as we complete the questions. What you need to remember is that an even number of negatives yields a positive result in terms of multiplying and dividing. So if we have 2 negative numbers, or 4 negative numbers, or 6 negative numbers, or 8 negative numbers, you're going to get a positive answer when you're done. And that is, of course, unless 0 is in there, because 0 is going to zero the whole thing out. If you have an odd number of negatives, that's going to yield a negative result. So if you have 1 negative number, or 3 negative numbers, or 5 negative numbers, you're going to get a negative out of that when you're done. And of course, if it's all positive, it's what you've done forever. It's going to be a positive answer. So if we take a look at this first one here, this top section, 1 through 16, you're going to do the same thing here. You're finding the product. In other words, multiply. So we've got 8 times negative 5 there. Well, we know the 8 times 5 part. That really should not be the question here. That's going to change into 40. What's the question here is, what is the sign on my answer? And as you can see, we've got one negative number here. Well, 1 is an odd number. And when we have one negative, which is an odd, all right, that's going to spit out a negative result. So my answer here is going to be negative 40. In number 2, where we've got negative 4 times 7, again, the 4 times 7 part we know, that's going to be 28. The question is, what is the sign? Well, again, we have one negative number, and 1 is an odd number. When we have an odd number of negatives, the result is also negative. So that's going to be negative 28. All right, when we go down to 17 and 18, same type of questions follow for 19 to 32. You're finding the quotient now, which means divide. So in this first one here, 17, 25 divided by negative 5. Well, we can do 25 divided by 5. That's going to change into 5. And then the question is, what is the sign here? Well, we've got mixed signs. An odd number of negatives, though. One negative number, well, 1 is an odd number. So when you have an odd number of negatives, the result is also negative. And so that's how we get negative 5. In number 18, where we've got negative 54 divided by negative 6, well, we can handle the 54 divided by 6. That's 9. The question is, what is the sign here? All right, and as far as the signs go, here we have 2 negative numbers. Well, 2 is an even number. All right, so we have an even number of negatives here, and that's going to yield a positive result. So that's positive 9. Now, some of you might be a little bit bothered by those rules, but those rules work for any type of problem. Whether I have 3 numbers, or 4 numbers, or 5 numbers, or 6 numbers to multiply or divide, those work all the time. But maybe you need something a little more simplistic, so we'll put it this way. A positive and a positive spit out a positive, and a positive and a negative spit out a negative, and a negative and a positive spit out a negative, and a negative and a negative spit out a positive. All right. Of course, that would only be talking about 2 numbers either being multiplied or divided. It's the same rules for both. And again, that would only work for that. That's the limiting factor, which is why we usually say it this way, because this up here on top in red works for everything. But if you need something a little more simple, here are the rules. Positive and a positive make a positive, negative and a negative make a positive, and a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive, no matter which the order, makes a negative. Okay, let's go to number 33 now. You have 2-story problems here, so pretty good chance we're going to be doing something with multiplying and dividing. And it says that Kim was walking down a path. We're going to literally draw her going down a hill here. And it says for 4 minutes, the elevation dropped uniformly. So it took her 4 minutes to come down this slope. And it says together that the total drop is 8 feet. So this total drop here is also 8 feet. And we're supposed to figure out how much was the change in elevation per minute for 4 minutes. So if we chop this up into minute segments, because they want to know per minute, they want to know how much she covered in this first minute, and the second minute, and the third minute, and the fourth minute. Notice these 4 segments are about the same because that's what the question says. She's going down the same amount each time. Well, if it took her 8 feet, right, what did we have to do? Well, we'd have to do 8 divided by 4. The 8 feet divided by the 4 minutes would yield a result of 2 feet per minute. And we can see that graphically. She covers 2 feet here, and 2 feet here, and 2 feet here, and 2 feet here. 2, 4, 6, there's your 8 feet. Here's 1 minute of time, a second minute of time, a third minute of time, and a fourth minute of time, covered in 4 minutes. That's exactly what the question said. 8 feet covered in 4 minutes. We did 8 divided by 4, and that's how we came up with our 2, which we showed graphically.